I think everybody in Wrexham, certainly if they can't remember directly, then they will have heard of what we're going to talk about today, and that is the Gresford mining disaster, which took place. Well, I'll let my guests tell you that. With me this morning, we have Alan Jones and Margaret Jones. They are both from the North Wales Miners Association Trust, and also instrumental in setting up a group to remember the Gresford Colliery disaster. Margaret, morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fine, thank you, Dave.
Good. How's your week so far?
Busy.
Busy. I'm busy with the group as well.
Indeed.
Good. Okay. Alan, morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, Dave.
And your week so far, how is it? How's it going?
Again, quite hectic. Lots of work being done at home.
Yeah.
Boilers fitted, and
I know.
Really, really, really busy.
And it's all stuff that you don't really need before Easter, isn't it?
It certainly is.
And it's all expense.
All expense,
as well.
And being tight at the house as well, and lots to do ready for our open day on Sunday.
Good, which we will talk about in a little while. But first of all, just to sort of recollect and remember the Gresford disaster, probably the biggest mining disaster in North Wales. So when did it happen?
As you say, it was the largest disaster in North Wales. It was on the 22nd of September 1934 at 2 o'clock in the morning, which was a Saturday morning. And
the number of men that lost their lives at Gresford.
In total, 266 men. That was 233 miners and 3 men of the rescue brigade.
Okay, and I mean, it's terrible if you think about it. 266 men lost. Only 11 bodies were ever recovered.
That's correct. Just the 11. All the rest are still underground. And there were only 6 survivors from that area. Cyril Challoner, Jack Samuels, Bert Samuels, Teddy Andrews, Tom Fisher and Davy Jones. They're the only ones to come out alive.
And Margaret, presumably, all local men to the Gresford and the immediate Wrexham area.
Yes, it encompassed all of the villages. From New Broughton, Pentry Broughton. There was one person from Buckley, although there were a number of connections, but I think every village in Wrexham was affected.
Alan, the group itself we will talk about in a minute, but the North Wales Miners Association Trust, was that set up as a result of what happened at Gresford, or does it encompass, our mining heritage as a whole? Is that why you both set up the trust?
Well, we got involved with the trust for that reason, to remind everybody in the area of their mining heritage. Not specifically the Gresford disaster, but I think wherever we go, the Gresford Colliery disaster is brought into the conversation. It's something that will never disappear. There's so many people involved. And,
I mean, obviously, people remember what happened. People obviously remember people who went down that mine. But what about school children? Is it important that is taught and talked about in our schools as well?
It's very much part of our foundation that we engage with the communities and schools near and far to the Gresford, to this area. Their heritage is coal. Wrexham is about coal, which then involves steel. Without the coal, the steel wouldn't have been around. So Wrexham is what it is because of coal. And children now, we can go and show them a piece of coal, ask them what it is, and they don't know. They've never seen a piece of coal. When you think that so many people were involved in the industry, But that is what we're looking to do, to educate the children, tell them about their heritage.
So, Alan, at the moment, at the site, what is there to remember the 266 men that lost their lives at Gresford?
There's one of the winding wheels has been put on a slate plinth, and there's a plaque on there with the 266 names on it, and the surrounding ground has been landscaped. But like everything, it was erected in 1982, and there's a lot of work now needed on the wheel, painting. So part of another item we're trying to do is raise money to get it repainted and looking at its best. Because,
Margaret, not just for the people of Gresford, but as Alan said before, you know, to preserve our mining heritage and just tell people, just tell the next generation of people how important the mines were in Wrexham. And as we said, you know, the mines, the coal industry, the steel industry, the iron industry, to keep this memorial looking its best. You know, it's important that you can raise this money, isn't it?
It certainly is. The idea, I think, of the Friends of the Gresford Colliery Disaster Memorial is we have an initial group of maybe 10 people, but we want other friends to come along, and the families of the victims of the disaster, we'd like them to come forward and join the Friends so that the disaster will never be forgotten.
It's a pretty diverse group of people, isn't it, Alan? It's made up of miners and former miners, but I suppose also a lot of people who, you know, didn't have any connection to the industry. It was just that they lived in the area, but obviously they will have heard and been told about what happened at Gresford.
Oh, we are a diverse group. The Reverend Canon David Griffiths, but he actually trained as a miner at Gresford and worked in Llymane. With Ruby McBurney, she was the daughter of Bill Crump, deceased, who was working at the time with Ted McKay, the NUM agent, with Malcolm Williams, another Gresford miner and a member of the Gresford Colliery Rescue Brigade. Margaret, the only connection with mining is through me. We've got Vic Tyler Jones, the author, who very interested in the Llymane area, but he feels so strongly about the memorial he has joined our group. And of course we're getting help of Karen Harris from the museum services.
Margaret, if people listening and, you know, they have memories of Gresford, I suppose suppose you're looking for photographs, film, you know, audio evidence, anything that people can bring to the table, as it were. How can they get involved? How can they join you?
Well, we did put a piece in the paper about it, and it did give out my both my telephone number and my email address. As well as that, we have also started a Gresford disaster, and then it's NWMAT after NWMAT, to bring to everyday attention people to come on there and to talk about their families.
So this is on Facebook, is it?
It is on Facebook.
Yep.
If they put in Gresford disaster, I'm sure that it would come up. But what I want to do, I'm putting one photo a day of the deceased miners, and inviting the people to talk about them and to bring them to life, to make them into real people.
Okay, so if you go on Facebook and if you put the Gresford disaster into Facebook, you will find links to the group. And we were talking about pictures on Facebook, and if you type into Facebook the Gresford mining disaster, you will see the page of photos that Margaret is adding to daily. And Margaret, you were just telling me about one of the photos on Facebook, weren't you?
I was. We have a mobile museum based at Bersham Colliery, and we take it around to various heritage events. Last year, in September actually, we had our bus at the museum in town, and a gentleman came along with his elderly father, and he said that his father had been rather distressed because he'd never seen a photo of his brother in the papers at the time. And later on, a couple of months later, we had an exhibition, and I actually was able to find a photograph of his brother and give it to him, and he was so pleased with it.
Because of course, such a poignant memory. And Alan, you were telling me about a mobile library van that you've converted into an open air museum.
That's correct. Yeah, it was an ex-county library van. All the facilities, it's own generator, heaters, everything, even the toilet. Now we've converted that into a mobile coal mining museum, which we take around various events and the schools. And at the front of the vehicle, we have a little space there where we can record the memories of miners and their families, anything at all related with mining, because we need to keep them, because if they're not recorded, then memories are lost, and we do need to keep them.
Well, the music's been playing. We've had chance to talk, which has been lovely. And you were telling me that on the day of the disaster, which was a Saturday, it was a very important day for Wrexham, and actually a lot of men that would have been going to work on that fateful day, they actually changed their shifts. Why? What was going on?
It was a big day for Wrexham. Wrexham were playing Tranmere Rovers, which then was a very big derby match, almost as big as Wrexham Chester. Wrexham were holding a carnival, and there was a fun fair in town. Actually, one miner, who was a widower, changed shifts so as he could take his 3 children to the fun fair. And
his brother, he changed shifts with his brother, and his brother was killed.
Mm.
Now that was
tragic.
Yeah.
He lost 3 brothers in the disaster.
And how was it reported in the? Because I mean the ways in which news would have been reported as to how it's reported today would have changed. I mean, at first, Alan, we now know that 266 men lost their lives, but was there ever a situation in the very early stages of what had happened where it was unclear, how many people had actually perhaps at first been injured, and then as things transpired, would have actually been killed?
A local reporter,
Jeff Charles, wasn't it?
Jeff Charles was quite. He's well known in Wrexham for the photographs that he's taken over the years. He was up in Brumbo at the time when he heard of the disaster, and he went straight down to the colliery. And what he did, he went into the lamp room to see how many lamps had not been checked in, and from that he realised there was 300 lamps out. But at the time, the colliery owners were talking 50 to 100 men missing.
Mm.
He actually went from the colliery and started printing a local paper on the Saturday afternoon saying that up to 300 men were missing, and he was called all sorts of names for trying to blow everything out of proportion, but he was actually right.
Mm. Yeah, amazing stories. So if you want to share your memories and recollections, experiences, then please get in touch. Probably the easiest way to do it, Margaret, is by Facebook, yeah?
It is, certainly. We have a Facebook group which is called Gresford Disaster NWMAT, which is short for North Wales Miners Association Trust. But that is easy way to get a hold of me.
Okay, so go on to Facebook now, and please do submit your memories. And Alan, every year there's a remembrance service. It's an open air service to remember those who lost their lives at Gresford. Tell us what happens on this very special day.
We meet at the memorial, which is outside the Gresford Colliery Club on the Gresford roundabout, at 11 a.m. on the 22nd of September every year, regardless of the day of the week. That's when we meet. There's no invitation sent out. Everybody is aware of the date, and everybody is more than welcome. The Reverend David Griffiths conducts the ceremony, and I think last time we had as many as 80 people, possibly 100 people there. So it just shows that it is being remembered. And please, if you any involvement, well, if you would just like to come along, you would be more than welcome.
So, no invitations, Margaret.
No.
Basically, anyone can just turn up and pay their respects, and share some quiet time together.
They certainly can. I may add that the Reverend David Griffiths has done this service for the last 26 years, and he lost an uncle. I'm not sure if he lost two uncles in the Gresford disaster himself, so it is very, very important to him. And this year in particular, we would like, if possible, schools to allow a few children to come to the service, because it is the 80th anniversary of the disaster. There are going to be two services this year. The one at the Memorial Wheel, which is always there, but they're also having a service in Gresford Church in the afternoon,
which will be conducted by the Bishop of St Asaph.
Okay, so if you want to get involved in that would be great. Now, in a minute, we're going to play something. It's called the ballad of the Gresford disaster. Tell us, Alan. Tell us a little bit about this. How did this come about?
Margaret, did you?
From what I have read, I mean, obviously we weren't around 80 years ago, but what I have read is that one of the rescue team actually was so angry at the disaster, at how it happened, and he wrote this ballad, but it is actually called Anonymous. But he actually, I mean, his family say that he wrote the hymn.
It was written as a poem, and then it's been adapted to a ballad.
Okay, and that quite poignantly tells the story of what happened, Alan, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It's very, very poignant. It was recorded by the Hennessy's along on another CD, which they donated at the time of the miners' strike to raise money for the miners' strike, and they're very kindly waiving their copyright so we can reproduce it now to help get funds towards the North Wales Miners' Trust.
And it's lovely that it has been reduced, because it really, really is very moving if you listen to it. Now, Alan, I believe that you've actually got something happening this Sunday, haven't you, to just tell people about our mining heritage?
Yes, we open the gates at Bersham Colliery, Rosslothlin, on the last Sunday of the month. This next Sunday we're open on Easter Sunday, and we will be open the following Sunday. It's free admittance. We can show you some of the artefacts we've got above ground, and we can't quite go into the winding house at the moment, but we can show you around the outside, and of course our bus, our mobile mining museum. Everybody's welcome. Children are welcome. I'm pleased to see as many people as possible there on Sunday.
So that's Bersham Colliery.
That's Bersham
on Sunday. And what time do you open from?
We open from 10 o'clock till 4 o'clock.
Okay, it doesn't cost you a thing, so if you want to go along to Bersham Colliery and learn more about mining in our area, then you would be most welcome. Okay, Margaret, just before we go, if people want to get involved with the group and share memories, experiences, if they've got photos, if they've got video evidence, anything like that at all, what do they need to do?
Well, they can either contact me on my mobile, on my email address, which is margaret.jones.wxm@gmail.com, and I can put them in touch with the right people. We're open at Bersham Colliery on the last Sunday of the month, so they can come there and visit us by all means. If we want to talk about the Friends of the Gresford Colliery Disaster Memorial, they can contact me on the same email address.
Okay, and do the email address for us again, please, Margaret, if you would.
It's margaret.jones.wxm@gmail.com.
Okay, and if you go to our website, www.calonfm.com, you will be able to listen to this programme again a little bit later on today. Margaret, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for coming in. Have you enjoyed it?
I have indeed, and thank you for having us.
No, it's been a pleasure. And Alan, the same to yourself. Thank you for coming in. It's been wonderful. It's been so informative. It really has, and I'm sure we've enlightened a lot of listeners, perhaps who didn't know too much about what happened at Gresford.
Thank you very much, Dave, for inviting us, and hopefully we can come back sometime.
Of course you can. Of course you can. Thanks very much. Thanks, Margaret. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
Alan and Margaret Jones, and if you want to get involved with the Friends of the Gresford Colliery disaster, just give Margaret an email on the address which you have just heard, and you would be made more than welcome. And also remember that they are on Facebook as well. If you search for the Gresford mining disaster, you will find that Facebook page